Greetings and welcome back to the channel. You're watching Unbiased Magic Reviews, and today I'm reviewing Ekaterina's PenguinLive lecture. Now, this PenguinLive lecture was put out about 2 weeks ago, and you can pick this up for $40. You're going to get a lecture that's about 3 hours long. It was hosted by Eric Tate, and it is currently trending on the Penguin bestsellers list under $50. As usual, I'm going to try to give you guys a little background information, answer the questions you have, give you guys my impressions, and then go over each of the 7 pieces in detail, giving you my commentary. So by the end of this review, you'll have a good idea of whether or not you want to pick up this lecture. So Ekaterina is a professional magician based in Canada of Russian descent. You've probably heard of her, you've probably seen her YouTube channel. She's very famous, she's a great magician, very well known for her flourishing in cardistry, as well as obviously she also does magic reviews, which is really awesome. I really like how she often uses live performances in her magic reviews. She often demos the magic that she is reviewing. And those of you out there that are interested, you should always trust magic reviewers that can show you the products in their own hands, because it means that they actually really used it, so they have real world experience with it. Don't trust people that just unbox stuff. They have no idea what they're talking about. So anyway, as a magic reviewer, I think she's really great. I think she's an awesome magician, but today we are reviewing her Penguin lecture, and this is an objective review. As you guys know, I always try to give you unbiased, objective reviews, which is why you may be surprised when I tell you that I personally would rate this review or this lecture as 2 out of 5, and I would say you should probably skip it and not pick this up. That may be a surprise to you, and we're going to get into some details about why that is shortly. So let's first just touch on a couple of questions you probably have about this lecture. You're probably wondering, what kind of magic are you going to learn here? This is all close-up magic, mostly card magic. A lot of this is DIY or do-it-yourself. So about half of these effects you have to put together yourself. So if you're not into DIY type projects, you're probably not going to like what you're going to find here. Difficulty-wise, I would say it's about intermediate level, although some of the flourishes that you will learn or obviously are more advanced and will take more practice, but you can leave those out for the most part, with the exception of the last item, because it literally is a flourish, the production of a card that she goes over there. It's called Foxtail. We're going to get into that again shortly. The teaching I thought was very clear. She took her time, she explained things well, so I didn't think that that was bad at all. I think those are probably the main things that you want to know right off the bat before we get into each item specifically. In terms of why do I tell you guys that I think you should skip this, is because, one, I compared this with her last lecture 5 years ago, you know, thinking, well, did she bring a whole lot new, better stuff to the table? And the reality is not really. There's not a lot of original content here. A lot of the effects that you will learn here, there's better versions that exist. So I think usefulness, there's not a lot of usefulness here in that way. And some of these DIY projects are going to take a lot of effort, and I wonder if it is really worth all the effort you're going to put into it. Crediting wise, I don't think she did a very good job crediting things, and Eric Tate actually pointed out a few things that she didn't credit herself. Keep in mind that I'm thinking about how you're spending your hard-earned money for this lecture. A lot of the stuff you're going to learn on here is stuff that I would expect that you would just share with your magic buddy on a magic forum and not be charging people their hard-earned money for this. So let's get into the different items, and you're going to see where my thinking goes with each item. So the first thing that she lectures on is her layers gimmick. Now, she also lectured on this in her last lecture, which was about 5 years ago. She also released this as a single type of download. Now, I don't have that, so I don't know what was part of the single download, but I remember how she spent almost an hour on the layers gimmick in her last lecture as well. and she's added a small piece to the layers gimmick, but I don't think that that really warrants another hour of a lecture just to go over the small thing that she added to the layers gimmick. If you are interested in putting together this, you will need to have a laser printer, you will need to have a laminator, and you will need to buy other items. So this is a real investment. You're really going to have to want to perform this a lot. I was disappointed that she didn't teach her signature effect with the layers gimmick. Here she taught the Chicago opener. Basically, you can use the layers gimmick for any effect where you're going to force a card, because what the layers gimmick is it's a card that at the end of the effect you peel it open, and inside there's a revelation. There's either a signature or a drawing or something along those lines. I thought it was a disappointment that she did not go over her signature effect that she lectured on 5 years ago, because that effect, she had the spectator just name a card, they took that card out, the person signed the card, and then she made the signature vanish from the card, and then she opened it up and the signature was inside the card. I thought that effect was excellent, and I think that that effect really does warrant the layers gimmick, but unfortunately she did not divulge it here in this lecture, and instead she taught the Chicago opener. She did not add anything to the standard Chicago opener, so the effect really isn't hers per se. It's your standard Chicago opener, and if you are interested in learning the standard handling of the Chicago opener, you can actually look up the original effect, which was Al Leach, which was called, I think it was called like the hot card by Al Leach, but then it became known as a Chicago opener because of Frank Garcia. In any event, there's a lot of versions that exist out there. If you are looking for a good version, I would recommend that you check out Bill Malone's version that he put out on his DVD set that was called Here I Go Again. I think it was the second DVD, and the effect there was called something like Mental Card Magician or something along those lines, but it is on that DVD. You can find it there, and I thought Bill Malone had an excellent presentation of the effect. I thought it was very magical because there's a transposition that he uses in the effect, which is really kind of fun and nice. So I like his version. I would recommend it if you are looking for a Chicago opener. Here in this lecture, you're not going to learn anything new regarding the Chicago opener, and basically she uses it just to demonstrate her layers gimmick. It would have been better, again, if she had actually taught her signature effect. The next piece that she goes over is an effect that's called sponsored. And so basically this is a bottle cap penetration effect, and she talks about how she was sponsored by Coca-Cola to come up with this effect. And it's a very visual effect. You take the cap off of a bottle of Coke and then you smash it to the bottom and it ends up back on top. But it does involve DIY, and she does state that she doesn't recommend that you try to perform it live. So this is more an effect that you probably would perform over social media. And obviously you can't perform this walk around because you can't just walk around with a bottle of Coke. I guess you could if you really wanted to, but it can't be examined either. So the next piece that is taught is her ring routine, and this is her ring routine that she's been using for 15 years. It's a 3-phase routine. Each phase is basically other people's magic, and she's just put this together. So this is another example of a piece that I would expect that she would share with her magic buddies or on a magic forum, but not charge people money for, because none of the magic is really hers. The first phase is a couple of ring vanishes where the ring reappears on the finger, and basically that's Devo's D-ring. In fact, one of the moves is a direct lift from Devo directly, and she states it on the lecture. The second phase is a ring levitation, which comes directly from the Venom project. If you have the Venom reel, you'll probably learn it better from there. But she just shows how she uses that, and she mentions that she got permission to teach that on this lecture. And then the third phase is a ring penetration, which is Garrett Thomas's ring penetration, and you can see that on Garrett Thomas's performance on Penn and Teller Fool Us. Eric Tate pointed it out during the lecture that that's actually Garrett Thomas's move. If you are interested in a ring penetration type effect, I would recommend you check out Patrick Kuhn's Reflex, because you can learn that for free on his YouTube channel, even though he does sell it, I think, on Theory 11 too. But you can learn the move for free on his YouTube channel if you want to check it out. And the reason I like it is because it's a penetration through the finger going towards the palm. It looks great. It's very visual. So I would recommend that. Anyway, that is her ring routine, which again, none of that magic is hers. None of it is original to her. So the next piece is called Bill Switch. And as you can imagine, this is basically a bill switch. She takes a dollar bill, folds it up, unfolds it, and now it's a clear bill, like a see-through bill. And basically this is her small nuance on Josh Janowski's invisible effect. During the lecture, Eric Tate points out that they really can't recommend this without telling you to go and buy Josh Janowski's effect. So basically, Ekaterina is telling you about a plastic that she found that she thinks is better to use for the effect. Again, this is not something I would think that you should be charging people for. Instead, something that you would just share with your magic buddies on a magic forum instead of putting it on a lecture that you're charging people for. The next piece that she goes over is a jumping Gemini effect, and basically what she's added is just printing out some custom cards and performing a standard jumping Gemini routine. That's basically it. Unfortunately, her performance was really shaky, and it's really sad because afterwards she even mentioned that she was really shaky. She apologized for it, which she really shouldn't have done that. That just didn't add to it anything. But in my own mind, I'm thinking to myself, why are you including this on your lecture? You're not really adding anything to it other than those custom cards. I mean, here's an example of a classic card effect where I applied it to some blank cards. Does that mean that I can now lecture on this or sell it to people? I mean, please. It really doesn't warrant that. If you guys are interested, I would recommend, instead of the version that is taught here, I would recommend that you check out the modern classic version of Jumping Gemini, which is probably Darwin Ortiz's version, which you can find in his book At the Card Table, or you could learn it by watching Michael Amar's Easy to Master Card Effects DVD series, where he put it on there. It was also included on there. Now, Darwin Ortiz's version of Jumping Gemini was actually based on an effect that was called a Jumping Jackrabbit, and you can find that in a book called Card Tricks Anyone Can Do by Chasbro. And the reason why that effect was so awesome was because there was a move in there which was like an in-the-hands Mexican Monte move that was really awesome. It was called the Pancho Villa Flip, and Darwin Ortiz uses it obviously in his version as well, which makes it really convincing, really makes the whole routine convincing. So I'd recommend that you guys check out that and just stay away from this version. I don't think it adds anything to it. All right, so the last piece, the seventh piece, is called Foxtail, and this is Ekaterina's original flourish production to produce a selection, a mystery card, or a prediction. Now, she formerly called this move Agape, and I think she did put that out as a single download product in the past. Here she starts off with a false overhand shuffle, which didn't really look that great. It just looked like she was cutting the deck a bunch of times. I probably wouldn't recommend that, but the actual foxtail move, it looked really cool. It looks like a move that if you're willing to put in the time to learn it, then it's something you can add to your card magic, and probably a lot of people would like that. So just summing up, I would rate this lecture as 2 out of 5 for the reasons that I mentioned. I think some people will like the sponsored effect for their social media. I think some people may like Foxtail to add that to their card magic. But the rest of the effects on this lecture, I think they're inferior to other routines that exist out there. I think some of the pieces here should not have even been included because they're just routines of other people's effects. And I was disappointed that she didn't teach her signature effect with the layers gimmick. She did demo it in her last lecture, the At the Table lecture, but she also didn't teach it there. Maybe someday she will teach it. But for $40, I really don't think that this lecture is worth it, and I would recommend that you guys just skip it. As usual, if you have any questions or comments, please leave them for me. Thanks so much for tuning into my magic reviews, and I'll see you on the next one.